to another episode of Day Out with a Star. This is the platform where we celebrate and share the life stories of grassroots professionals working to shape innovative ideas to change the world. And today, let me welcome Kristina Mlakar, a green transit innovator. Kristy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited to have a discussion with you.
Yeah, and for our viewers, Kristy is an alumni of Masters of Science in Sustainability Management program from University of Toronto, and now she's working with CUTRIC as their National Operations Manager and Project Lead based out of Toronto. So, like before I start this interview, it's always my favorite question: who is Kristy?
It's such a good question and such a tough question. The short answer is I don't know, because she changes all the time for fun. But the long question, I'll kind of give you the overview from start to finish. So when I was really young, the two things I cared about most were sports and the outdoors. I played soccer competitively my whole life, all throughout high school, and went to university on a soccer scholarship and played soccer for McMaster University. So for most of my life up to that point, everything for me was soccer. And second to that was camping in the outdoors. My family and I used to go camping every summer, and it was my favorite thing. There's this one beautiful park in Ontario called Algonquin Park, and we went every summer for 2 to 3 weeks to go camping, and it was honestly my favorite thing in the world. So fast forward, when it came time to go to university, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was born, maybe back up a bit, I was born and raised in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. And so I went to elementary school and high school here. And then I went and did a Bachelor of Science degree at McMaster University, which is in Hamilton, so about half an hour from where I lived. And I started out in a general science program. I didn't know what I wanted, so I took a little bit of biology, a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of physics, kind of all of it. And then second year we had to specialize. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked the environment. So I was like, why not do environmental science? So second year, made perfect sense to me. So in second year, I switched over to environmental science. And I liked the courses I were taking, and they were interesting, but it wasn't quite grabbing me the way that I was expecting it to. It wasn't really my uber passion. And in my second year, I took one course on plate tectonics. And if you're not familiar with plate tectonics, essentially the Earth is made up of these massive rock plates. And they all together like a puzzle piece, and they ebb in and out. And they create mountains and volcanoes and oceans and so on and so forth. And it was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my whole life. So I became obsessed with geology. And then in my third year, I switched into a geology program. And then for the next 3 years, I really studied rocks. I was obsessed with rocks, everything to do with them. And I thought it was really cool. And in my second year, I played soccer for my first year and second year. And in second year, I got a really bad concussion.
Oh my God.
Career. Yeah. So then in my fourth year, because I wasn't playing soccer anymore, I decided to do an exchange semester. And I went and lived on this archipelago, which is a group of islands called Haida Gwaii. It's kind of in the northwestern coast of Canada, and it's inhabited by the Haida people. And the Haida people are the indigenous people, and they've lived on these lands for tens of thousands of years. It was one of the earliest colonized places in Canada. And so we were immersed in their culture, and they co-own the land 50-50 with the federal government. And there's nowhere else in North America where an indigenous peoples co-owns the land 50-50 with the Canadian government.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, just being there and learning about their culture. And ironically, their motto is everything is connected to everything. And they say it a lot more eloquently behind the language, but it's funny how that kind of came full circle with my sustainability degree. But at the time, I didn't even know what sustainability was. I had no concept of it. But I remember leaving that program and thinking that I needed to do something significant for the environment. I knew that, but I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So then after I finished my graduate degree or my undergraduate degree, I went into the Masters of Science program in Sustainability Management. And we can get to that a little bit more, but it essentially changed my whole life and brought me into green transportation, and I couldn't love it more.
Yeah, but like what motivated you to pursue this Sustainability Management program?
So I did my undergraduate thesis project. It's called paleoclimatology, and we're looking at a geochemistry and stable isotopes. So in what I was doing is looking at how oxygen isotopes can tell us temperatures of the ocean in the history. So in theory, what I was doing in the laboratory was helping us map out the history of Earth's climate, which told us that the climate is changing. And then you can use that data to extrapolate out into the future and figure out how the climate's going to change in the future if we keep going at certain rates. And although in theory that was helpful for climate change and it was doing good work to try to help the environment, it didn't feel like that when I was in a lab all day and just trying with my little test tubes and everything in a kind of isolated environment. I felt like I wasn't making that much of an impact. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to do a research master's because I didn't have a lot of knowledge in business and in economics, and I figured I needed that knowledge base in order to adequately influence society in a more tangible manner. And I remember finding the sustainability management program, and I can't really describe why, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is it.
Oh, wow.
It was just holistic, and it had a little bit of everything in it, and it seemed to be very customizable to what you wanted. And there was an internship in the summer, which is super key because you get some experience as part of your program. And then there was an opportunity to do an exchange semester out in Europe. And that was really big for me as well.
So like, what would you advise to the students who are trying to explore sustainability management programs? Would you recommend this MScSM program of University of Toronto to others?
100%. I think the one thing that I would recommend when looking at programs is taking a very critical look at what they actually define as sustainability. Because sustainability, by definition, is the ability to sustain something. And in this context, is to sustain the Earth or to sustain human life on Earth. You cannot do that if you don't look at the environmental side of things, the economic side of things, and the social side of things. And I think a lot of times sustainability programs are trying to come at a problem of global sustainability from a lens of just environmental sustainability. But you can look at what works best for the environment, but it's likely not going to work best for economics in the traditional way that our business systems were set up. And so if you try to pursue that one pathway without having knowledge of economics and knowledge of social systems and politics and how that all works, then you're actually not going to be able to make that much of a difference. So I would say when looking at programs, make sure that the program acknowledges that and deeply understands it, and that pronged knowledge is embedded within the course content.
Yeah, but most important thing, how can this MScSM program that you're talking about equip students for a great future career? Tell me more about how you did secure your research.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think the thing that the sustainability management program offers, I'd say two sides to it. One is endless opportunity, like frankly, endless opportunity. I remember the first week we had a consultant come in. Her name was Emily. I forget what her last name is now. And she said to us that we as students will never have as many opportunities in the rest of our life as we have on this day. And this was before we'd even formally started our courses. And that was kind of a statement that hit home for me. And I realized that I was never going to be able to be or have the luxury of being a curious student and asking people for help and going out and asking questions. Because once you get into the workforce, it's a little bit harder. You sort of lose that student status that gets you a bit of a pass to ask questions and be really nosy and eager in some ways. So I took advantage, I think, of a lot of the outside of school course opportunities that were networking opportunities, personal growth opportunities. And then I think the other side of it was that the sustainability management program, you don't necessarily come out of it with tangible skills. You're not getting certified as an accountant or you don't have to do some certain banking system, but you have a way of thinking about any problem that comes your way from a holistic nature. So instead of looking at a problem and only looking at it from one viewpoint, you're able to look at it sort of from a top-down perspective and understand all of the pieces and how they fit together. And then you can use that frame of reference and frame of thought and then reapply it to essentially any context or any problem you come across.
Exactly. But Leah, do tell me, like, how did you secure your internship that eventually led to your job?
Yeah, so it's a good question as well. At the beginning of the program, as I mentioned, Emily was there and she said, take advantage of every opportunity. Another thing that she said that really hit home for me was that you can look at the opportunities like a buffet. Right now we're at a buffet and we can choose to take a small side plate and put a little bit of salad on there and go sit down. Or we could choose to eat everything. It's up to us essentially to determine our fate. So I made a little promise to myself that I was going to take advantage of every opportunity, no matter how scared I was of it or tired or anything else. I was going to use every opportunity I could. And the first networking event that I had gone to, it was about 2 months into our program. And I remember just being scared of networking events because typically you walk into a room and there's just little groups of people talking everywhere and nobody comes in and welcomes you into the circle. Like you have to go put yourself into that circle. And it's a bit intimidating, especially when you're young and don't really know what you want to do. And I had just gotten off crutches from getting a hip surgery, and my 2 friends I was going to go with both bailed on me. And my mom was telling me, Kristy, like, you don't should go downtown, like, it's late at night, you're by yourself, don't do it. But then I was like, you know what? Either you do it or you don't do it. And that was kind of my thought from day one. Either you commit yourself to taking advantage of every opportunity or you don't. So I went to this networking event, and the keynote speaker of the evening is the CEO of CUTRIC. Her name is Jasper Petrunic, and she is by far and away the most intelligent and competent human I have ever met in my life. She is this like astounding 1 in a million type of person. She's like an Elon Musk, but with the ability to socialize with people in an effective manner. She's brilliant. And so she did this speech about electric buses, and she was saying that if you electrify the 2,000 public transit buses in the city of Toronto, it would cause the grid to crash because the grid can't handle that high demand of electricity at given times throughout the day to support those buses. And it was just a mind-blowing moment for me where I was like, that's crazy because we're all promoting electrification of transit and so on and so forth. But then no one's actually looking at the utility side. And so you have transportation as an industry, and then you have energy as an industry, but there's not a lot of intermingle between the two of them. And after that event, I left there and I was like, I need to work for this woman. I need to work for CUTRIC. And then I messaged her the next day on LinkedIn, and I asked her, or told her I was really interested in working for her and that I had an internship via my program and a research paper. And I asked her if she was interested in having me help her out with either of those. And she said she was interested in both. And then fast forward a 1.5 years and here I am. And it's been an incredible journey.
Yeah. So like for all the prospective students listening this, so this is how you secure a career.
Yeah. Every opportunity, every networking opportunity, you never know who you are going to meet. I cannot stress that. And I've been to tons where I show up, I don't talk to anybody. Nothing comes of it. But then I show up to one and you find your future boss. And so it's definitely hit or miss, but you have to put yourself out there.
No, I think you really found your great boss and a great career. And thanks to the MScSM program who could guide you through it. And but tell me, is it more difficult to work as a champion for sustainability rather than working for safe areas as finance and IT sector?
Unequivocally, yes. It is definitely more difficult. And I think the biggest reason behind that is because those positions, those more traditional positions, are established, and their objective is established. Targets are established. A methodology of how you as an employee can help a company achieve that target has sort of been established. It's been done before. And therefore, because it's been done before, the value of it is quite evident. You have reference cases to look back at. But when it comes to sustainability, if you're trying to obviously go back to transportation, if you're trying to make the transportation network sustainable, that has never been a focal point of transportation. That's never even been a topic within the transportation sector. So now to try to change the transportation sector, you're trying to change an established industry. You're trying to change the methodology that has been used for decades. You're trying to change the objectives. You're trying to change every aspect of it. So there's no reference point. There's nothing that you can use to prove the value because it's never been done before. So you're almost reinventing the wheel every single day, and you're going to fail along the way. But you kind of are starting out from scratch along with your team, obviously, and you're going to fail a bunch of times, and a lot of people will not believe in the work that you're doing. But I think as long as you know why you're doing it, then it's 100% worth it.
And it's 100% more exciting, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Let's go deep into what you are actually doing now. So what is this green transit?
Yeah, so we at CUTRIC tend to use the term low carbon smart mobility. And for us, that sort of captures the whole sphere of what is green transit. We'll break that down into kind of 3 parts. So low carbon refers to either zero carbon or low carbon forms of propulsion, which essentially means that you can propel a vehicle forward with minimal carbon emissions. Right now, from a transit perspective, most transit buses and so on and so forth use diesel. And obviously diesel releases a bunch of greenhouse gas emissions from it. So if you switch to a system that uses battery electric systems, to propel the buses forward, as long as the electricity sources are clean, then you're now reducing greenhouse gas emissions into the climate. And I mean, I hope everyone here knows about the effects of climate change and that they're here and they're only going to get worse. So you can look at battery electric, you can look at hydrogen fuel cell electric, or you could look at sources of what we call renewable natural gas, which means that taking crop residues or animal excrements, which have methane in them, and then using that and processing it and then using it as compressed natural gas to propel a vehicle forward. So although natural gas isn't necessarily clean, if you have it from a renewable source that would anyways release methane, you capture that and then use that as a propellant, then it's excellent.
No, but like, tell me, are we at the cusp of a transportation revolution, really?
100%. Yes, I think we are. I mean, once again, from the transit perspective, it's interesting because we always talk about in our job, like the auto sector versus the transit sector, because the auto sector, if you want to change the auto sector and revolutionize it, I mean, the manufacturers themselves have to buy into that, and they have to have a business case to do so, which typically means either the government regulates it and forces them to do it, or the customers ask for it. And right now, the government's not really regulating them to be a lot cleaner, and the residents aren't necessarily asking for it, because electric vehicles are more expensive right now, and until people buy them en masse, the price point won't come down. From a transit perspective, it's almost easier, because if you convince a transit agency to get electric buses, and they buy buses in fleets. They don't buy individual buses. They buy 10 buses and 30 buses and 60 buses. And then in the context of City of Toronto, you go up to 2,000 buses. And all of a sudden you can have 2,000 clean buses coming. And then on the technology side, there's so many new transportation technologies coming down the pipeline. And I realized I didn't finish my previous answer about the smart mobility, the low carbon side we covered. But the smart mobility side is looking at applications of artificial intelligence and other technology developments and the integration of them within transportation systems. Transportation systems have no empirical evidence that supports their development. A lot of times transit systems and road networks were literally just created off the back of an envelope. Somebody just looked at the system and was like, oh, we should probably put a road here, probably put a subway line here, but it hasn't really been supported by data. And now we have all this data that can help us make smart transportation systems that are based off of ridership patterns and density and so on and so forth. And then on top of that, obviously, which is my area of interest and sort of expertise, is the autonomous and connected vehicle world. So for those that aren't familiar, autonomous vehicles is a vehicle that can sense the roadway around it and drive itself along a roadway or a pathway. And then connected vehicles refers to technologies embedded within a vehicle that allows it to communicate with other vehicles and with infrastructure. So it's sensing its way while it's communicating with the environment around it. And these technologies are coming very soon. Since the city of Calgary in Canada just launched its first autonomous shuttle. So the revolution's definitely here.
So basically we are not ahead of our times, right?
We're not ahead of our, I don't know. It depends on who you ask, I think. I think we're way behind on our times, but some other people, maybe some typical transit people, think that we're ahead of our times.
Yeah, because again, tell me, what was the full form of CUTRIC for our audience?
Okay, that's a good question. So there's a body in Canada called the Canadian Urban Transit Association. It's a government-funded body. It's a non-for-profit, and it essentially oversees all the different public transit systems in Canada. And it tries to coordinate them and organize them, help lobby the government on their behalf for funding, so on and so forth. And they identified a couple of years ago that there was this gap in research and innovation capabilities for public transit agencies. And the reason on one side of it is funding. So public transit systems, typically the revenues from ridership, so people actually paying for the fare to use transit, only covers about 30 to 60% of the cost of the actual operations of the system, which means the remainder of that cost is covered by the government. So in that scope, there is an extra budget for research and innovation the way that there is in the private sector. And the other side of it is that because these technologies are all new, the transit systems don't have the employees on staff that actually know how to deal with them and know how to integrate them. So CUDA then created CUTRIC, there's a lot of acronyms here, to sort of serve as that research and innovation branch of the work that they do. And then since then, CUTRIC's evolved into our own entity that tries to, on the larger scale, help transit agencies figure out how to integrate these new technologies into their transit fleets. And on the other side of it, we have a bunch of smaller R&D projects that are really, or research and development projects that are really focused on developing a technology with a specific company.
Wow. What does it take to build on a vision and then mature it to a sustainable organization?
It's a lot of follow through. So at CUTRIC, as I mentioned, our CEO is just, she's this visionary leader, and she constantly is just spitting out all these ideas of things that we need to change and areas we need to innovate. And she'll say, we need to do this, 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 and this. And in her mind, it's very straightforward and excellent, but then it's a matter of making sure that everybody follows through on those items. And she's so busy trying to save the world that the rest of the team was kind of left trying to catch up. So now in my role, it's trying to make sure that we're all aligned in our efforts and that we're helping each other out and supporting each other out. And we all have very different skill set in terms of A, what we can do, and then B, what we like to do. Really a big balance between the two of those. So right now, it's essentially trying to figure out and ensure that everybody has a role that best suits the skills that they have, and then also is a role that they like. And then everybody's supported in ways where they need to be supported.
No, but like as National Operations Manager, what are the leadership skills you require to take your company to the next level?
I think the biggest one would be accountability. If I were to kind of give one answer there, I think through and through that I need to be as transparent as possible and as accountable as possible to what my role entails and what I need to do, and be very open and honest about any time that I have shortcomings. And then obviously a big part of it is believing fiercely and entirely in the vision of CUTRIC and in the work that we're doing, because it's not easy. It's pretty hard a lot of the days. And as we talked about before, a lot of times people don't believe you, and people tell you that what you're doing will not work out, it doesn't make sense, and so on and so forth. So on those times where it's tough, you definitely need leaders that are in place who are able to move the organization forth and keep on pushing forth and saying, okay, that didn't work, now we're going to do this way. And then, it's also making sure that you keep your team accountable. If there's anyone who's kind of pulling, especially in a small organization where everything's moving so quickly, we need every teammate to be fully accountable for their work.
No, I asked that question because a lot of new environmental organizations are that way, right? Their systems have not been built up. They are working on new technology, and they are just trying to find their path, right?
Yeah, no, it's very true. And I think that one of the benefits of CUTRIC is because we're a consortium. So what we are essentially is a network of industry partners, academic partners, and government partners, and then the transit agencies and municipalities. And what we try to do is bring all those entities together in one room to solve this problem. So we essentially identify a problem, then we tell a transit agency that this needs to happen, and they tell us they don't know how to make it happen. So then we try to reach out to people and make it happen. So I think when it comes to grassroots organizations that are trying to break into the sustainability scene, the less that you can duplicate in terms of your efforts, the better. And by that, I mean, the more that you can collaborate with people that have tried to do something similar or are doing something similar, and you can add a green theme to it or a sustainable theme to it, the better it'll be. And the more people that you can network with, they don't necessarily have to be your employees, you don't have full partnerships, but just people that you can share thoughts and ideas with nationwide, the better it is.
No, it's absolutely necessary, as you said, but is it possible to solve the big questions in our society through limited interventions that we do through grassroots organizations like CUTRIC?
I think you can if you get that collaboration piece right. I think as long as you have the right players in the room, and I mean, as a good case study of this, autonomous and connected vehicle work, there's a couple different test beds in Canada and pilot projects and groups working on this project. And I can name off a couple of them, but essentially they all work on their own, and they don't communicate with any other of the bodies doing this in Canada, yet all of them receive public tax dollars. And as a taxpayer in Canada, that upsets me, because that means my money is being spread out to do something 4 separate times instead of them talking to each other and only having to do it once. I think that grassroots organizations, if they're small, if they're strategic in terms of their partnerships and in their communication, that they definitely can solve citywide problems. Because I mean, at CUTRIC, what we do is we get the necessary data and research, and then we package it all together, and then we go to city councils and we tell them, this is the problem and this is how you fix it. And we have these people who support us and believe in this, and then we try to get money from them and approvals through them.
No, I think you have had very good grounding now on all the leadership roles and issues that come up. Tell me, what has been the role of your mentors in guiding you towards a green future?
That's really important. Mentorship is super key. So there's kind of been, I would say, two big mentors for me. One of them would be Shashi, our MScSM program. And I think with him, although it hasn't necessarily been one-on-one direct mentorship, I am so blown away and astounded that a human who is so grounded in love and lets love guide his whole life can be so accomplished in a society that I think, especially from a business perspective, undervalues love grossly. Everything that Shashi does is to help people and to help the environment. And he did this program and he goes forth with it fearlessly, regardless of, I'm sure he tried to make the program for years and years. I think it was like 3 years, maybe 8 years. I don't know, but he faced a lot of opposition to it. And now he brought forth this program and he's building this little sustainability army of people who can in a business environment that doesn't value love, but they believe in love and they believe in just caring about other people and caring about the world. And then I think my second mentor is definitely my current boss. Watching her and just observing her every day is just magical, because she's one of those people that is just seemingly she sees the future, she sees her goal and what she wants to do. And like nothing can get in her way to stop her from getting there. And it's just really admirable in terms of how relentless she is in her pursuit of what she believes in. And I think that's kind of a really core thing when it comes to sustainability. And actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I think when it comes, if you want to have a sustainable career, it's going to be more difficult than other careers, other traditional careers. But I think as long as you understand your why as to why you're pursuing this pathway, and you open back to that when it's hard, then I think it makes it a lot easier. And I know for me, one of the kind of aha moments that I had was actually an acceptance speech from Angelina Jolie. But in 2013, she got a humanitarian award. And during her acceptance speech, she was talking about how she can never seem to understand or wrap her head around why she was born into the circumstances that she was, and why was she so lucky. She had every opportunity to be anything that she had. She had a family that loved her, a house over her roof, and she felt so lucky because she could, as you and I were talking about, she had every opportunity in the world to do what she wanted. And then she said other people in the world are born in parts of the world where as a woman, they have no voice, they have no rights, they cannot get education, and every day their biggest concern is about just feeding their children and staying safe. And so that kind of just really struck me, because I'm so privileged and I have one life and I happen to be born here. And I always think about if there was a Christy that was born on the other side of the world in a very different circumstance, would I be able to look her in the eyes and tell her about my life? Or would I be guilty to do that? So every time when it's hard or I've worked really long weeks or anything like that, I always think back to that image of looking somebody across the world in the eyes and telling them that I'm genuinely trying to help. I'm genuinely trying to be a good person and help the world. And I think that as long as you have that anchor and have a good why, and genuinely trying to help people, that it'll all work out.
No, and this is like you're talking about personal change. And obviously, this journey has changed you as a person. Tell me about it.
So much. And that's why at the very beginning you said, who's Kristy? And I don't know, because she changes all the time. And that's the most amazing thing. I think if you put yourself out there, you let your heart guide you into where you think you should be going, even if you don't know why. I think that's really helpful. And in the MScSM program, the reason it's really unique is because students have very diverse backgrounds. In a lot of programs, like, for example, your typical MBA, most students come from a finance or business background. In our program, we had every kind of academic background you could think of, from politics to social sciences, to regular sciences, to business, to economics. And then in our classrooms, a lot of time, we would all have to read an article or a case study or something along the lines. And then we would sit there in the room with 26 students that were my cohort, and we would talk about this. And it increasingly blew my mind how different people perceive the same content. Like, I would see it and I was like, no, this is how it is. This is how I came into the program with a bit of an ego, just thinking that, oh, you know, like, you finished your undergrad and I'm a master's student, I know what I'm talking about. And then people would come with these ideas that, like, weren't even in my sphere of thought. And were brilliant and just incredible. And I realized they were such good people and they were so smart. And it just made me realize that although obviously there's a lot of bad things going on in the world, there's a lot of people who are trying really hard to make things better. And I think you have to help that revolution that's happening and try to change the way that things are while supporting one another as much as you possibly can.
You know, you're totally get it. Path towards success. Do you think yourself as a genius? If not, how can ordinary people achieve extraordinary things in life? What is your personal path towards success?
I would say definitely no, definitely not on the genius spectrum. I think, once again, it comes down to the why. I think the reason that I've been successful is because I genuinely care, and I genuinely care about something greater than myself. I don't care about my own success. The only reason I care about my own success is that I think I can use that position to then help other people or help change the way things are. So I think I've always kind of said that you have to keep your head down and that don't worry about what's going on around you. Try not to be too influenced by people one way or another. You need to figure out who you are and what you want. Keep your head down. Be nice to people. Always be nice to people. You never have any idea what's going on in their lives. And then just work hard. Just genuine hard work. There's no way that you're going to succeed in life if you're not willing to kind of put in the hours to work on it. And I mean, right now I work a lot of hours, more hours than I really want to in the long run, but it's because I need to learn. I'm young and I want to learn, and because I care and I want to make as much of a difference as soon as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm. No, this is again a big lesson for young students or anyone, even like mid-career people who want to change their career towards environmental success. This is a big lesson for them, and this is the path on how to really enjoy what you are doing, right?
Yeah, no, that's big. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's going to be a long life.
Exactly.
You have to enjoy it. I mean, you spend the majority of your life, if you think about it, at work. So you don't want to do something that you're not passionate about. And sometimes it takes a long time to find that. I mean, it took me until, I was, 23 at the time, to find anything that really got me excited, whereas some people know from an early age. So the more that you can kind of put yourself out into different scenarios that make you uncomfortable, or go to events that aren't related to a topic that you think you're interested in, you may be really surprised. Because I mean, if somebody had told me 3 years ago that I'd be in transportation, and transportation would be the thing that just gets me going every day, I would think that they were crazy. But here I am, and it's just, it's literally a dream come true.
No, and as you said, that the Masters in Sustainability program really build that path for you. So thanks to them, and thanks to Shashi for creating that program and giving like a guiding light for all of us. That's great.
Yeah, no, Shashi's incredible. He's another person that's kind of reminds me of my boss, like a 1 in a million kind of person that comes along and just changes the way that you view things. Everyone that he touches for their lives. He completely changes the way that they see the world. And I think all the students at the MScSM program are so grateful to him, and what he's trying to do is just incredible. And he's just, he's a really, really a special person.
Kristi, thank you so much for coming to this. So again, we would love to have you in our family as a mentor to so many future students. If they have some questions, I'm sure they'll have some questions, and I'm sure you will be able to answer them. That would be really great.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Any questions I can answer in any way I can help anyone out, I would love to.
Again, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.